All right, hello, my most amazing artists. We are going to continue working on our shape collage. Your class just got to cutting out shapes last week. So this week they're going to glue down their shapes and then do the second step that you're on. So what you need, like I mentioned last time, is you need the same color markers as you do colored shapes. So if you used purple or green or orange or pink or whatever, you need to make sure you have those markers too, because we are going to use lines to practice making our shapes. And we're going to go around our shapes, making the lines of our shapes, because remember, a line bends and twists to make that shape. And then we're going to do something called concentric. And I know this is a big fourth grade word, but we're going to do lines around lines to make a really cool abstract or kind of not realistic looking picture. So this isn't a picture of anything, it's just lines and shapes to make artwork. So I'm going to start with my triangle because it's in the middle. So pick whatever shape you want to start with first. It doesn't have to be the one in the middle. I'm using a blue marker because my shape is blue. So I'm going to go above my shape. I'm going to draw following the line of my shape. So if you're not good at drawing some of these shapes, you're going to be really good when you're done. So I'm going to go and just draw that shape. And now I'm going to go around to my other blue shape. And I'm going to draw another line. And you can leave more white space if you want to. It doesn't have to be even all the way around. That's pretty tough. And now I'm going to go to this shape. I'm going to do those lines. I'm going to keep going. And I don't want to go really fast at first. You want to kind of take your time, and you want to make sure with your squares and your triangles, you actually make those sharp points. Don't just kind of make a circle around it because we're trying to learn the shape. So now I'm going to go back to this shape, and I'm going to draw another line around that line. So I'm lifting up my marker and putting it back down, lifting it up and putting it back down. That way I know I'm going to get those sharp corners like a triangle. So see, it kind of looks like our triangle is vibrating or kind of ripples in water. So I'm going to do a second line. And you don't want your lines to cross over each other or run into anybody. So we're just going to keep our lines nice and try to be parallel if we can. It's another fancy math word for not crossing. And we're going to do it like I have room to make some more lines here. I'm going to stop making lines here for right now because I don't want to run to my red. So I'm going to go back and I'm going to keep working on some of these blue lines. I'm going to add some more. And if you run off your paper, that's okay. Just pretend it's there. Don't draw on your table though. And then come back. Then that helps give the illusion that it keeps going off into space and your pattern goes on and on and on, which is really cool. Okay, so I'm getting close to my yellow one now, so I'm going to stop. And this got kind of wide here, and that's okay. That's going to happen. So now I'm going to come back up to this little one, and I'm going to make my lines. Remember, I'm lifting up my marker and my corners. That way I make sure they don't. And mine didn't meet, so it's really easy to just draw another little line here. So I'm going to draw some more lines. But, oh, my triangle will go off my paper, so I'm going to pretend, and I'm going to come back down here. And I'm going to come up here and come down. So I'm getting close to this triangle, so I need to make sure I don't go over. So sometimes it's going to end up where you're just going to do, and we're going to stop. I'm not going to cross it. I'm going to pretend it goes off because I want this to look like it's on front. So that's called overlap. And I'm going to bring the line here. And that's a little tricky, but it looks really cool. Okay, so that's a lot of those lines. I can come back over here later and I'm going to fill some things in. So let's move on to maybe a different color. So then I'm going to do with my red. And I'll lift between those corners because we want to make sure we have nice sharp corners for our squares and rectangles and not rounded corners. So I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to go to all my colors. And maybe your colors are sprinkled all over the paper, and that's fine too. I just find it's easier to stick with one color at a time versus trying to go back and forth through the markers all the time. So we're just going to keep doing this. And Mrs. Cole might be going a little fast because I don't want you to get bored. You want to take your time and make your shapes. So I'm going to add a second line around the big line. So when you write lines around lines, we're just kind of really practicing how to make a square. Remember, if we run out of room, we can pretend our square is here and just keep going. Your lines don't cross over each other. I'm going to stop here because I want to make sure my yellow has room. So I'm going to go to this one now. And we're going to keep kind of doing that method with all our colors. You want to try, depending on how big or small your shapes are, to get at least 3 or 4 lines around your shape. But if you drew really big, you might not get that. So I can keep going here because I can pretend that goes off the paper, and mine kind of got an angle, so I'm going to bring it down and over. And I want to be really careful that I don't bump into my triangle, and done. Okay, so now I'm going to move here. So we're going to keep going. You probably get it. So I'm going to pause this, and then I'll come back when I've got my yellow. I've done a couple around my yellow too, and then I'm going to show you how we're going to fill in the white spaces. All right, I'll be right back. Okay, so I've done a little bit more work. So remember, when you come and you're doing your lines, you don't want to crisscross your lines. So I put my line, I jumped over the blue line and kept going with my red. So now that looks like the blue shape's on top of it. And that happened with my yellow too. But we could leave it like this. But some of you, I think, I know at least in class, you drew your shape so teeny tiny. I think it'd be cool to go a little bit further. So if most of your paper is done, you could leave it and take a picture. But I'd really like us to try to fill in some of this white space. We don't want a lot of white space. A little bit is good. So I'm going to come over here and I'm going to add some more blue to this shape. Well, I really can't with this shape because if I add more blue to this shape, it's going to go on top of my yellow, so I can't. So I'm glad I saw that. So I'm going to actually add more to this shape because it's tucked under. So sometimes you're going to get to that place where you really can't add any more lines when they start getting close together. But if you do really tiny lines, I want you to keep going until you don't know where else to put those lines. So this line kind of got really big, and that's okay. And I can't really add any more on these two because they're on top. The ones on the bottom are a little easier. So I'm going to add some more lines, maybe to this red one. I'm going to make the red one look like maybe it's going underneath my yellow a little bit. So it's kind of a puzzle. And if you accidentally cross over a line or two, or you make something go on top and on bottom, that's okay. We just want to practice making those lines, going slow, and learning about line and color. So I'm just adding a couple more lines to this one. That's pretty good there. I'm going to add a couple lines around here. Just remember, whatever lines, but I don't want to draw on top of it, so I'm just going to pretend like it's tucked behind it. So sometimes we have to pretend a little bit, and that's okay. All right. And I think that's good up there. I'm going to add some more yellow circles here. So this is a point where you just kind of fill it in. If you want to go until your lines just start to touch and stop, you can. But if you had big pieces like me, that won't take long. If you have tiny pieces, that might take a little longer. It's up to you. So I'm going to do a couple more things because I want mine to be a little bit more full. You're your artist though, so you decide what's right on yours. So I'm going to add a little bit more because I want a little bit further. So all we're trying really hard to do is fill up our space as best we can and not overlap or crisscross our lines. Feel like I need a little something here too. So I'm going to do a little pretending that maybe part of this triangle went under, and then this one, part of this went under too, just to fill up the space a wee bit more. All right, so when you're done, you're going to have some white spaces, maybe some bigger ones than other ones, and that's okay. If you want less vibrating shapes, you can do less, but you want to have most of the paper full of color and lines. I can't wait to see your pictures. Take your time, especially on those corner shapes. Try not to crisscross or overlap your lines and go slow. So we're practicing taking our time and thinking about what we're drawing. So that's one of the big things we're working on. And it's also practicing our shapes, and we're learning some color too. So once you're happy with it, you think you tried your best and it looks good, you're at thumbs up, take a picture and upload it to today's assignment, and I will see you guys next week. Bye guys.